It is possible to become free from debt, financial worry, your boss, and your zip code. You can start living a life you love, but first, you need to find your freedom. Using financial independence and lifestyle design principles, you can create the life of your dreams now. There are many paths to freedom, and that is what this podcast is all about. My name is Becky from 20free.co, and I am the host of the Find Your Freedom podcast. Today, the bloggers behind A Purple Life and Financial Mechanic join me for a casual chat. Financial Mechanic saved $380,000 by the age of 26 by living frugally, increasing her income, and investing the rest. A Purple Life is striving to retire from her full-time job this year at the age of 30. She accelerated her path to financial independence by increasing her income through job hopping and decreasing her spending with domestic geo-arbitrage. We discuss the exact dollars and cents of their plans for financial independence and retiring early, also known as FIRE, the advice they would give themselves in their early 20s, aligning your spending and lifestyle with your values, and how to handle the risks of retiring in your 30s. A couple notes. This is not a standard interview. At one point, my guests even turn it around on me and interview me for a portion of the episode. This podcast was recorded in September 2019, and things have changed significantly for me in that time. In September, I had not yet made the decision to quit my job and go full-time in my business. You'll get to see where my planning and mindset were back in September and how that has changed from then to now. We recorded live at FinCon, an annual event that brings together money nerds of all kinds, including bloggers like myself, Purple, and Mechanic. As you've probably guessed, Purple and Mechanic are not their real names. It is quite common in the personal finance blogging community to use a moniker when you are discussing the in-depth details of your financial life. Prior to FinCon, I had decided I was launching a podcast. I met Purple and Mechanic at the event, and they agreed to record with me in the live podcasting studio. Because there were several hundred people around at the time, you'll notice this recording has some background noise. It's been reduced as much as possible so as not to be disruptive. Additionally, my voice was in poor shape at the time of the interview. I had been talking nonstop to all of the incredible and interesting people I met at the convention for the 3 days leading up to this interview, and despite having an excessive amount of cough drops, I had mostly lost my voice. Please bear with me and forgive me for those moments where my voice cracks a bit. I can't wait any longer to share this incredible conversation, so let's get to it. All right, welcome to Find Your Freedom. We are recording live from the NEFI podcasting stage. Thanks to NEFI, the National Endowment for Financial Education, for sponsoring live podcasting at FinCon 19. And I am here with A Purple Life.
Hello.
And Financial Mechanic.
Hello.
And I just want to chat financial independence, young women in their 20s working towards their financial futures. It's going to be real casual.
Sounds perfect.
So we'll start with you, Purple.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start pursuing financial independence?
Almost 5 years ago. Yeah, my partner found the idea on Reddit and told me I should check it out, and I promptly ignored him for 2 years, and then finally listened, realized it was amazing, and went in with both feet, surpassing his goals.
So your original plan was 10 years
It was.
to financial independence.
Mm-hmm.
How did that go?
It went really well. I sped it up by basically doubling my salary, cutting my cost of living in half by moving out of Manhattan, and went from 10 years to 5, so a little over 5, hoping to retire next year at 30.
So you're going to retire at 30 years old.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We'll see.
And what's your story, Mechanic?
I found financial independence, I think 3 years ago, and then I started writing about it last year. My goal is to retire by the age of 32. I started the blog when I was 25, now I'm 26, so I have 6 more years until financial independence.
That's amazing, too. What spurred your interest in financial independence?
Actually, it's also Reddit.
Shout out to Reddit.
Reddit is not sponsoring this podcast.
They can.
But they can if they want.
Reach out. I was looking in personal finance subreddit. Basically, I had a high salary as a software engineer, and I said, what do I do with this money besides spend it? And I realized I could start saving it towards a different goal. And I found the Financial Independence podcast, and then from there I found all the blogs, Mr. Money Mustache, Frugal Woods, Our Next Life. And from there, I was very inspired to continue saving for a goal instead of a nebulous, I don't know, something out there. Mm-hmm. It was nice to put my money towards a goal. Exactly. Not a big house, not a big car. Didn't need all that.
And so why did you start a blog about it?
I wanted to share my journey. At first, I wasn't sure if there really needed to be another blog about financial independence, but I realized it's really important to see all the different perspectives everyone has. Everyone has a different story, a different way to get there, different goals, and it helps to put your voice out there and how did you get to where you are? And if other people like you are interested, maybe they find your story and they find it inspiring, and they also want to pursue financial independence, and eventually we can make a utopia of all the people retiring early.
I love the utopia idea. Mechanic, when you start a utopia, will you invite me?
Of course.
Okay.
You're already on the short list, don't worry.
Some may call it a cult, but we call it a utopia.
Rebrand.
How about you, Purple? What really sparked the interest in blogging about your journey, and how'd that go?
Well, like everything, I had to do it really complicated. So I started writing for myself more a journal. It was online, but it was not searchable and no one could find it. So I did that for almost 4 years, just writing what I was feeling, what I was thinking as I made all these changes in my life to go from original 10-year plan to more like 5. And then I actually was at a meetup for a financial independence and fire drill podcast specifically that I saw on Twitter. Shout out to Twitter. Anyway.
I just learned about Twitter 2 days ago.
She did. It's changed her life.
From Purple.
Anyway, I went to that meetup and I met Millennial Boss, who's a blogger. She reached out, wanted to have coffee with me. I fangirled so hard. I was freaking out. I was like, of course I'll have coffee where? I'm coming right now. Anyway, I mentioned during that I'd been writing a blog for years. And she's like, why don't you just push it live? I was like, why? Same as Mechanic. Who needs another blog? Like, no. But she was very right in that, exactly what Mechanic was saying. Every voice helps. Everyone's a little different. Shout out to the purple weirdos. Anyone who doesn't feel like they're mainstream, who has weird colored hair, facial piercings, like whatever. Just march into the beat of your own drum. And I'm really, really happy that I took it live about a year ago. A lot of people have told me that hearing my slightly different journey has helped them, so wish I'd done it sooner. And that's why I took my blog live.
That's awesome. So you saved that content, and then it all came out at once?
Oh, yeah. Here's like 4
Was
years
it dropping
of
your
weird
mixtape?
thoughts. Oh, yeah. Boom. Beyonce style. No warning. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's so nice to meet you, ladies, because I was also doing my financial blog, and I didn't know any other women in their 20s personally who were on a similar path to me. And that's why I started blogging about my journey, because I felt the need to document it, see if I could help other people who might connect with my situation, who might feel like they were in, a similar path but didn't know where to go. I'm figuring it out as I go along. I'm definitely not telling people I know everything, but it's cool because I think we're all contributing to this knowledge base for women like us, and everybody's doing it a little bit differently. My goal is to be financially independent by 35. So, yeah, this is just one of my favorite events that I've been to, and this is my first FinCon. How many FinCons have you been to, Mechanic?
This is my first one, too.
First one for me.
First
We're all
timers.
first timers.
That's
amazing.
awesome. How many podcasts have you been on?
2. We were just talking about
Yeah,
this,
we've both
actually.
been on the same ones.
Same ones.
I just follow Purple wherever she
Yeah,
goes.
It's in my writer.
Yeah.
So you guys are both on podcast number 3.
Correct.
That's right.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so lucky to have such experienced guests. So let me ask you, Purple, what advice would you give yourself in your early 20s as it relates to either finance or enjoying your life?
My advice would be really reflect on what makes you happy. Because in my early 20s, I listened to everyone else and what they said I should have or do to be happy. For example, I bought all the purses. I bought high heels. I can't even walk in high heels, so I don't know what I was doing, and they hurt so bad. So I tried to strive for those promotions. I was told myself I was going to be an SVP by 30, random goal. So I was just striving for external validation, I guess. But no, I should have paused, and I know that was hard because I was paying for actually 2 Manhattan rents on 35K salary, so not a lot of time to think and reflect, but I should have taken it, and I think that would be really helpful for other people too, because once you realize what makes you happy, and it's different for everyone, but for me, it really is time with the people I love, and that's free.
So what I'm hearing is you want to align the way you spend your time with goals that are centered around what matters to you and not to other people, society. I love that message. How about you, Mechanic? What advice would you give your early 20s self?
Oh, it's such a good question to think back. What was I like my early 20s? And very similarly, I wanted to be CEO of a company or a successful startup and show my success in that way. And at the same time, I was preparing myself for some kind of future goal. Like, I didn't know what, but I knew that I wanted to work hard so that eventually I could have some payoff. But I think it's easy to start working hard and never stop and never take that break, like Purple was saying. So I think learning how to take a break. I always had the goal that I would work really hard for 5 years and then take a year off and travel the world, but it hasn't happened yet. So if you make big plans like that, start planning it out, have something to look forward to on the journey, but also incorporate those types of big goals in little ways in your current life so that you're not always looking ahead and running on a treadmill for something else. Enjoy the run while you're on it.
It's a journey, right? Not the destination. I love when people say you don't want to retire from something, you want to retire to something. And maybe retirement's not what we're all looking for once we become financially independent, right? Purple, what are you going to do? What is your plan once you hit FI?
My plan, aligning to my values, is to spend a lot more time with the people I love. So in doing that, I am extending greatly time that I would usually spend with them. For example, I'd go for a week for Christmas instead, extending that to a month, and really taking the time to just spend with them instead of rushing around and trying to get all that time in. But also travel. That's my other big thing when I'm in a conference call and I see, flight to Paris on sale for $200. Dang it. I want to go right now. This big, beautiful world of ours, there's so much I want to see. So doing that, and I'll figure out when I get a little closer what exactly that will look like, how much time I'll spend in the U.S. versus international, what I'll be doing. But all I know for now is planning all of that sounds like a lot of work and just experiencing life. And then I'm planning to keep the blog up weekly as well. So
that'll be exciting. We'll all be following that to see how financial independence looks for you when you get there.
Yeah, we'll see.
Do you have a plan after FI?
I do have a plan. So right now I'm a software engineer, so I write code all day, but I also like writing words. And so I want to write a book. I want to I don't want to stop working. I want to work on what I enjoy and what I find fulfilling. And I think humans are designed to work. But we're also sometimes tied to jobs that we don't like or work that drains us. And I want to find the work that makes me feel fulfilled by the end of the day. I also want to travel. That's a huge one. If I can slow travel, maybe Purple, I can meet you in Paris. We'll go from there. And then also somebody needs to start working on the blueprints for this utopia. So
my partner's working on it.
There we go.
We'll start a committee.
So far there are alpacas there, so that's good. One of his friends raises alpacas. We're like, sure, let's integrate that.
I'm a huge fan of alpacas.
Oh.
Yes. We'll talk more about that offline. Yeah. So if you guys don't mind getting in the weeds a little bit, I'd like to talk numbers. Purple, what's your FI number? How much money do you have to save to feel financially independent and able to stop what you're doing right now career-wise and transition into the next life?
I'm looking to have $500,000 invested based on my current spending, which is about a little less than $18,000. And so I'm bumping that up to about $20,000, assuming that I'll be spending a little more money on that travel and moving around more. So $500,000, we'll see what happens.
Mechanic, what do your numbers look like?
I started with the goal of 1.2 million by the age of 32. that would be assuming a spending of around $40,000. Right now I spend under $20,000 like Purple in Portland, Oregon. But I could see that changing, and actually Purple inspired me by shooting for that $500,000 because there is flexibility you can build in, whether with geo-arbitrage, living somewhere else. I also have I'm lucky that I have dual citizenship to England, so there are options. And with slow travel, you can find travel insurance. And besides that, I think it would be really cool to start CoastFi, which is basically you get a certain amount saved, which right now I have 300,000 saved. I'm 26 years old, and that would, if I left that to grow, it would be significant by the time I was at normal retirement age. And right now I could start working and doing jobs that cover my expenses, but aren't necessarily very high paying, but are very fulfilling. So that is an option as well. So I'm shooting for the 1.2 million by 32, but I think if things were to change, I would go for CoastFi.
So flexibility is a large component to this
Definitely.
plan, right?
And I know Purple has it built into her plan that there are, everyone says, there are so many unknowns, and that's so true. There's so many unknowns in our life, in our retirement plans, and there's so many things that can go wrong, and there are also so many things that can go right. And so we want to plan for maybe a little buffer, or plan to give ourselves that flexibility so that we know that if something changes, we know healthcare is a big question mark, that we have some kind of way to adapt when that comes.
Flexibility and resourcefulness are huge, right? When it comes to feeling independent, confident that you can retire with that number that you chose, and confident that you can adjust if things change.
Let's talk about you, Becky.
I want to know about you.
It's an inverted podcast. We're interviewing you.
Okay.
So, tell us about your goals.
So my goals are to feel that I have financial freedom. I graduated $100,000 in student debt and realized that was not exactly the starting point that I wanted to become financially independent by 35. My numbers have been evolving so much that I actually, you guys are really solid and set on what you're doing, and I'm in a flexible portion of how my career is going to look, how quickly I'm actually going to be pursuing FI. I am now engineering a change in my career that is going to involve some part-time work, I hope, as well as shifting towards location independence, and that's going to affect my profitability. But long-term lifestyle design is more important to me than being, have a lot of money in the bank. So I want to incorporate. I changed my idea from fast fi, where I was going to grind and grind and grind, make a ton of money, get out the game forever, and never have to work in a corporate setting anymore. Now I want to do CoastFi, which Mechanic just informed everybody what that is. And so the reason that I want to do that is because I, again, think flexibility, resourcefulness is hugely important. It's our best commodity. So we have multiple types of capital, and our human capital will always be valuable as long as we live. So I don't want to worry so much about my financial capital, and reduce my stress as much as possible so that I can enjoy my life in my 20s and set myself up for a free and enjoyable financial future.
I'm completely with you. And people keep talking about everything that can go wrong, and like Mechanic was saying, everything that can go right. But also, when you're financially independent or fully retired, in my mind, your main job would be just to stay that way. Like, that's where all your energy could go, in addition to having a job you love, whatever it may be. But everyone's so scared to just take this leap, but I feel even more secure, not just monetarily, but as I go along this journey, seeing all the options that are out there, seeing everything that can go right.
I realized that I was more scared of being stuck in a cubicle than I was scared of taking a leap and figuring out how I could live comfortably, spend on my goals, not spend on things I didn't care about, and get a little bit more freedom from that, rather than worrying so much about the will I be able to pay the rent and survive part of it, because my freedom is the most valuable thing to me. That's why I started Find Your Freedom. That's why I write 20 Free. It's more valuable than money. My time is more valuable than my money, and I want to buy that back.
What are your values in terms of what you would spend on? Because we talked a little bit about travel and spending time with family. Are yours the same? Do you have anything that's a little different?
So I have 4 pillars because I'm a crazy person. I love spreadsheets, and so I make an intensive spreadsheet every year to give myself a process to get all of my ideas aligned with my priorities and make sure that my time is being spent in alignment with my goals. So the 4 pillars are health, freedom, happiness, and purpose. And I try to make sure that the things I spend my time and my money on align with one or many of those different components. I wrote a mission statement this year, which has been huge in helping me make decisions that are difficult to make. When I know that something is not in alignment, but I'm scared to do something about it, I turn back to my mission statement and say, if this doesn't align with how I want to live my life, why am I still doing it? Usually it's fear. Usually it's wanting to socially conform. I don't want to disappoint people. I want to uphold my reputation with my family and my colleagues. I don't necessarily want to stick out as completely different. But I'm realizing that living in alignment with those pillars, spending in alignment with those pillars, will make me the happiest that I can be. And I want to live my life for me. The way that I can be best to my family, to my relationships, is by being the best me that I can be. There's a guy, his name is Jim Rohn, and he said, I used to say, if you take care of me, I'll take care of you. He said, now what I say is if you take care of yourself for me, I'll take care of myself for you. That's why I think being responsible, personal responsibility is huge for me, and just making sure that I'm constantly adjusting to realign with my values and my priorities. Travel's huge. You guys are talking about travel. I will join you in Paris if you'll have me.
We'll have you.
I will join you in Utopia, wherever that ends up being.
Where the
Montana.
alpacas are. I love what you're saying about being different, and sometimes those choices are different. And I think that's what's great about financial independence is learning what are the differences that you do want to take with your life, because there are a lot of paths you can take where you're following what everyone else is doing. And especially in young adulthood or in your 20s, it's hard to know what choices to make, and we look around to those around us and say, what choices are they making? I bought a red sports car, 2-seater, speeding along on the roads, and afterwards, after finding out, like what you were saying with your values, I realized I don't need a car. I can bike to work, and I sold it, but it was kind of weird to stop and think, do I need this? What choices do I want to make that are different? And one huge difference is to stop working in the corporate world in your 30s. That's not something people normally do. So it's really inspiring to hear you talk about how you're trying to align back to a mission statement and figure out what are those differences, whether or not you want to get married or have kids or retire early or spend on an extravagant house, which maybe you want to live in a beautiful home in your 30s and 40s and 50s, and that's your forever home, and that's your goal, and that's amazing, and you don't care about travel. And maybe on the other hand, you want to travel all the time and you don't really care about having a nice house. You can stay in hostels and it doesn't matter to you. So I think figuring out what those differences are and then embracing them is huge. Like Purple was saying, like if you don't want to walk in high heels, throw them away. I threw away all my high heels. No.
Me too.
A huge part for me was learning to be honest with myself and then show that honesty to other people, because I figured out what I believed and then I struggled with fear of telling other people those things. Of telling my parents, I don't want to own a home. I don't ever want to own a home. I will build a tiny house. That's pretty strange. My parents gained their wealth through real estate, and they think it's very important to own your own home, and I don't want to live a lifestyle that's like theirs. And they weren't disappointed in me like I feared they would be, but sometimes it's difficult to tell people that you care about, who you think might not agree with what you want to do, But I think the honesty was really important for me so that I could really feel confident in my alignment, in my core values. First you have to tell yourself, then you have to tell the people that are important to you. Any other questions? Anything else that you'd like to share?
If anyone is scared to share your weird thoughts, be that not wanting to get married, have kids, have a house, retire early, I say go for it. I've told my family and friends all of those things, and everything I was afraid would happen did not happen. Nobody cares. And I'm trying to just live by example, and a few people have told me that they've changed a lot about their financial lives, so don't be afraid to be weird. Just do it, even if it seems like no one's watching. Living by example can change lives.
Yeah, some people might not understand what you're doing until you do it.
Thank you guys for sharing all that information with me. It has been so nice to be at FinCon with you, to meet other women in their 20s who are pursuing financial independence, and starting Utopia for all of the people who are going to be financially independent.
Shoot me an email if you're interested.
So where can people find you to contact you for the blueprints for this
That's
Utopia
right.
once they are
If you're
drafted?
interested in joining our financial independence utopia, please email me at fm@financialmechanic.com. My blog is financialmechanic.com, and my Twitter handle is FIMechanic.
And you can find me at apurplelife.com.
Do you want people to tweet you?
I'm at a Purple Life blog. Someone's been squatting on the Purple Life Twitter handle, but I'm working on it.
And I'm Becky from 20free.co, and you can find all my social media at 20freeco. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I had so much fun with this interview. I love the idea of the Utopia, and now you know about it too. So when you reach financial independence, hit us up and we'll give you the secret password for entry. One more thing I wanted to mention about the interview before we get to the actionable takeaways was the core message I wanted to get across about why I changed my plans for early retirement. I didn't intend for it to sound like I now care only about lifestyle and not about my finances. That's the mindset I was in when I got myself $100,000 in debt as a teenager. What I wanted to say is that I realized in my early 20s I had taken an imbalanced approach to pursuing FIRE. I cared only about saving money and not that much about my quality of life in order to follow a strict and very short timeline to retirement. My mindset has changed on that, thanks to burnout, and I realized I can have both, the lifestyle that I want to live and the strong movement towards financial independence. Ultimately, no one's journey to FIRE is a straight line. We live, we learn, and we sometimes take steps back when we realize we're going in a direction that isn't working for us. Finances and lifestyle are two sides of freedom, and by taking a balanced approach and reevaluating my path, I have been able to find my freedom. FinCon was an incredible experience. It was my first time going in 2019, and I know I will be attending every year. Why? Because the community I found there was like nothing I had ever experienced. I met so many people who could relate to my interest in lifestyle design and financial independence, unlike my friends, family, coworkers who can't relate. I built relationships and friendships that I know I will have for years and years to come. The amount of inspiration and ideas that I gained were worth 100 times the ticket price, and I have to say, FinCon was one of the best investments I made last year. Because of that experience, I started looking into other events I could attend to meet like-minded people, get big ideas, and find my community. That's how I heard about the Financial Freedom Summit. The summit's mission is simple: to help you reach the next level in your financial journey, no matter where you are. There will be speakers and workshops on nearly every personal finance topic, including debt, investing, frugality, entrepreneurship, geo-arbitrage, money mindset, and more. The Financial Freedom Summit is an event for everybody, not just bloggers, podcasters, YouTubers, and other content creators. It's for everyday, regular people who like to talk about money. This is your chance to connect with thousands of other people who have the same interests, goals, and philosophies as you. The event is set for May 1st to 3rd, 2020 in St. Louis. Tickets are going fast, which means that prices will increase soon. But you can lock in early bird rates if you buy your ticket now. Better yet, I have a special discount code that will give you 20% off at checkout. Go to www.20free.co/FF to get the special link and discount code for the 2020 Financial Freedom Summit. That's 20free.co/FF Summit. Time for power moves. As you know, I want this to be more than just a podcast for listening to, so I'm making it a do-cast, where you're getting information from the podcast that you can take action on to create real outcomes in your life. I call these power moves. If you implement even one of these tactics into your life, you're taking a powerful step towards finding your freedom. What are some power moves we learned from this conversation? Here are 5. Power move number 1, enjoy the journey. This might mean having something to look forward to during the journey. For example, mechanics set a goal of working really hard for 5 years and then taking a year off to travel. Having milestones are important, so you're not just on a treadmill saving money for the sake of saving money. You can also live a design lifestyle while you pursue financial independence, not just after you achieve it. Decide what the journey looks like, not just the destination. Power move number 2, decide what you will retire to. The saying goes, you should retire to something, not from something. What would you want to do once you retire? Retiring from corporate work, for example, isn't fulfilling when you eventually retire. Then you'll be thinking, now what do I do with my time? While you are planning for financial freedom now, make a plan for what you're going to retire to later. This is a crucial component of lifestyle design. Purple and Mechanic both mentioned spending more time with the people they loved and traveling. Mechanic also mentioned doing work that makes an impact. You can retire to whatever you want. Just spend the time figuring out what that is. Power move number 3, take action despite your fear. Y'all, all 3 of us on this episode have experienced major fear around making choices that are not the status quo. When you do things that are different and then have to tell people you know about it, it can be scary. Don't let fear hold you back. Like we experienced, you'll find that all the bad things you imagine might happen won't happen. Call your fear out. Write it down, see it for what it is, and take action anyway. A great audio program I'd like to recommend to you is called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Take a listen. It will change your life. Power move number 4, write a mission statement. I found that by writing a mission statement, it made it so much easier to make decisions. All I had to do was look back at that mission statement and ask myself if what I was doing or thinking about starting was in alignment with my mission. If not, I scrapped it. If it was, even if it was scary, I had the confidence to move forward because I knew the action was helping me live my mission. So create a mission statement that describes what you want to create in the world and why. It will be your compass. Power move number 5, decide to be different. Ask yourself, what choices do you want to make that are different from the people around you? Just because your neighbors buy a new car every 3 years doesn't mean you have to. Just because your parents love real estate investing doesn't mean you have to buy a home. Decide to stop doing things just because other people are doing them. Figure out what you want to do for you. Eliminate the things that you are doing that are only other people's expectations for you. If that makes you a little different, embrace it. You only get one life. Live yours, not someone else's version of what your life should look like. That's the 5th power move from this conversation with bloggers A Purple Life and Financial Mechanic. To check out the show notes for this episode, which includes links to resources mentioned in today's interview and where you can learn more about A Purple Life and Financial Mechanic, go to 20free.co/episode 3. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you're subscribed to the Find Your Freedom podcast on whatever app you're using to listen to this episode. Do me a favor and also leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Go to 20free.co/iTunes to be redirected to the page on Apple Podcasts where you can leave your rating and review. I really appreciate it. If you think this episode would help someone you know, please share it with a friend. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Find Your Freedom podcast. My name is Becky. You can connect with me on Instagram and Twitter at 20freeco and sign up for free resources and email updates at www.20free.co. That's the word 20, FREE.co. I'll talk to you next week on another episode of the Find Your Freedom podcast.